Hello everyone and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol battle report for the channel, and here's hoping for everyone involved that it isn't as big of a stomp thanks to Dice Luck as it was last time, because that was something insane. Anyway, today for you we have a 17 threat match between the X-Force and Midnight Suns. So let's take a look at the two lists playing out on the table for you. So just 4 minis in the X-Force, but they are made up of some pretty big hitters, being led by Cable of course, giving them that leadership bonus of 1 reroll and attack per turn, joined by Colossus, and then Wolverine and Sabretooth at the back there working together. Their tactics cards, we pan down here a little bit: Fastball Special, Cat and Mouse, which will be getting used at deployment, Dirty Work, Weapon X Program, and Exceptional Healing. And if you hear something going bump in the night, don't worry, it's just the Midnight Suns being led by Blade. We also have Moon Knight, Punisher is just bringing Brawl along for the ride, I guess. We also have Iron Fist, and then Dr. Voodoo at the back there, who of course will be starting with his Brother Daniel token, which makes him very, very tanky, unless he puts it onto an enemy instead. And their tactics cards are Siege of Darkness, Seance, Heroes for Hire, Extreme Conditioning, and Blood Red and Personal. And here's the two Crisis cards being played today. The Extraction is the threat value being played, which is Struggle for the Cube. You can pick up cube fragments. At the end of a turn they hurt you, but give you more power in the power phase. 1 victory point for each of the 5 held by the team. And then the Secure is Intrusions open up across city as seals collapse. It's the 3 Dormammu portals, which you can hold for 1 victory point each. You can also pay 1 power and risk, or take 1 damage, sorry, and then also risk getting teleported somewhere else to teleport through them. So we look at the table with a pan back here. 5 cube fragments, 1 dead center along with 1 of the Dormammu portals, the other cube fragments around the outside there, and the other 2 portals, 1 under that ruin over there, and 1 in front of the building right there. So we'll get the teams deployed and be back and then. Alright, we are all set up and good to go. The X-Force are to your right and will be taking first activation, although they do have 1 pass if they want to use it. The Midnight Suns are to your left, and as mentioned, Cat and Mouse is being played in the deployment phase. After all characters have been deployed, the next first character can play this card, move them within 2 of their current position, and then they can only do 1 move action in their turn. Cable has moved up 2 towards the centre of the field from deployment line, which is roughly there. Sabretooth is there, and it's going to be hard to see, but Wolverine and Colossus are on the far side, there you go, of that building over there. Midnight Suns have more or less just been in a line in the middle. Dr. Voodoo slightly to the side, Iron Fist, Punisher and Moon Knight having conversations about dead family members and money, and Blade down here. So with that, we can jump into battle round 1 and get this started. So the X-Force did make use of their pass to get the game started, so it was actually the Midnight Suns to move first. They activated Moon Knight. He rolled a wild for his multiple personalities, which in any turn other than the first one would have been really good because it adds extra attack dice to his next attack. But you can't really do this turn. He couldn't get within range of Cable with 1 move. So instead he sort of moved in a half behind cover over here, spent 1 power and picked up the cube fragment that had been sitting there. Cable activated first for the X-Force. He moved just so he was within 1 of the cube fragment and the Dormammu portal that is in the middle of the map, paid 1 power to pick up the cube fragment, and then with that range 5 plasma rifle of his was able to shoot downwind at Moon Knight, who did get cover but still managed to take 2 damage, and the wild also meant he has been set on fire, so not a great start for him there. Frank Castle activated next, and all he did for his turn was move medium twice in order to contest the central Dormammu portal against Cable there, also staying just within range 1 of it. Next up for the X-Force was Sabretooth. He moves long, easily able after 1 move to pick up the cube fragment that was there, and then hop the fence, well it's not really a fence, hop the wall, and has situated himself next to this Dormammu portal in the east flank. The Midnight Suns leader, Blade, activated next, who was over there by Iron Fist before, but he wants to have a big old scrap in the middle, so he double moved and is now over there facing down Cable. It's an interesting matchup. I'm not sure, I guess Cable probably has the edge, but he does have the Punisher there to back him up, and currently they're the ones holding the portal now. Well, we're up this top end of the map now because Colossus activated next. He only moves small, but 1 small move did put him where that cube fragment was at the top left of the table. He paid his 1 power, picked it up, and then moved a second time in order to be currently the only one securing the leftmost or westernmost Dormammu portal. Iron Fist activated next, and he moved up twice in order to be contesting the Dormammu portal that Colossus just moved to. Worth pointing out though, he did not pick up the cube fragment on his way past. I guess he's saving that for Dr. Voodoo. And it is over to Wolverine to end off the X-Force's first turn. So perhaps as expected, all Wolverine did was double medium move in order to help hold this portal. They currently hold the majority, although Dr. Voodoo is the final one to activate in the turn. He might not be able to get within range 1 based on those base placements. Iron Fist was not placed as well as he could have been, so that might prove an issue. I guess we'll see. So Dr. Voodoo did move up and also on the way picked up the cube fragments. That's all of them picked up by people now. And that is just within 1, it looks like. He also could have passed around Iron Fist, but that would have put him underneath that bit of destroyed building there. Just would have been awkward to film, awkward to get the model out, so we are counting that as being in range 1 for the purposes of contesting that portal. And with that, let's go to scoring for Battle Round 1. So here's how things stand at the end of Battle Round 1. The X-Force have 3 of the 5 cube fragments. Colossus, Cable and Sabretooth all have 1, which means they also now take 1 damage each, but generate 1 power each. They also hold this portal down here. The one at the top of the table is contested, so nobody has that, meaning that they have gained 4 victory points. The Midnight Suns have the other 2 cube fragments, 1 on Dr. Voodoo, 1 on Moon Knight. So that's getting kind of bad for Moon Knight now, because he also got hit for 2 damage by Cable, and he's on fire currently. So he's in a bit of a bad place, but that is points generated. And Blade and the Punisher hold the central portal here for 1 victory point. So as we go into Battle Round 2, the X-Force are winning 4 playing 3, and have retained first activation. With that, let's jump into Battle Round 2. So there was no passing to start this round. Cable activated, and first of all he shot his plasma rifle downfield to try and take out Moon Knight. Thanks to the cover, no damage at all taken there. But then he spent 6 power on Askani-san, his Area 2 7 dice Mystic attack, catching both Punisher and Blade. Punisher got hit real bad by it, that's 4 damage to him, which also means that Cable has healed the 1 damage on him, because if it does damage, it heals him for 1. Blade, he spent 2 on Supernatural Senses to get a reroll, but still managed to take 3 damage all said and done from a pretty decent roll against him. So Cable has done a lot, but he hasn't shifted at all. So the Midnight Suns at Battle Round 2 got started with a bit of a whiff. Moon Knight activated, rolled a skull for his multiple personality, so nothing happens. He moved medium across here and then shook the Incinerate for his other action. Then Siege of Darkness was played, their version of Wakanda Forever for the Midnight Suns. Midnight Suns can spend 2, those that do can do an attack immediately with costs of 0. Blade spent 2, did his basic katana attack on Cable, who now has no extra power to defend himself with. Got Pierce on it as well, did 2 damage and bled him, which is important for Blade healing. And then Moon Knight also paid 2, I'm not sure if that's allowed or not, but it doesn't matter because he threw throwing glaives at Cable and missed. And then Dr. Voodoo attacked with his basic Mystic attack. He did it on Wolverine, however Colossus spent 2 to take the hit instead with his Protect roll, his Big Brother roll, that's what it's called. And he managed to fully block it, so nothing there, although he did generate 1 power for rolling a skull. Well, after that Siege of Darkness largely whiffing, it was looking a little bit bad for the Midnight Suns, but the dice are being a bit kinder, or being crueler, but to both sides this time, compared to the last time we were playing Crisis Protocol. Colossus activated, he stayed where he was, he did 2 basic strikes, both on Dr. Voodoo, and the rolls were not great. The first one did no damage, although keep in mind Dr. Voodoo, his normal physical defense is 2, but he's buffed because he has the Brother Daniel token on him. The second one only did 1 damage through to him. He would have lost 1 power to concussive force, but he also rolled a skull, so essentially they negate each other out. And with that, Colossus is just staying there. Was hoping to generate power. More importantly, I guess, for how the rest of the turn might play out, he does not have enough power on him currently to bodyguard. Dr. Voodoo activated next. He also didn't move, but we do have a bit to cover. He started with his basic Mystic attack, which he did on Colossus, and there's a reason for that. He wanted 1 power, which is what he got, because he dealt 1 damage to Colossus. And he didn't want to use it on Wolverine, because that would have given Wolverine enough power to do exceptional healing with the Tactics card. So he did it on Colossus, got what he wanted, and then he spent 3 power on Staff of Legba, or something like that. 7 dice Mystic, and more importantly it has a thing called Power Burn. For every wild in his attack roll, of which there was 2, before anything else is done, Wolverine loses power equal to that, and then also takes damage for the power sapped in that way, and doesn't gain power from it. It's awkwardly worded, but it's so that you don't gain power from losing power, but you do take damage, which is also important to stop him from doing exceptional healing. And it's before anything else is resolved, so then the attack itself was pretty decent and did 3 damage. Not enough to take him down, he's very tanky. He's got 7 health on his healthy side. Does kind of force the issue that he needs to axe though, so his his healing, normal healing, kicks in. But pretty good turn from Dr. Voodoo there, and he generated power on the stab hit as well. But he did use 3 of it on his big spender on Wolverine there. So Wolverine basically had to activate just to make sure he regened that 2 health with his healing factor when his activation finished, which did happen. For his turn though, he did 2 basic adamantium slashes to hold on to his power for exceptional healing as a backup. First one did 1 damage to Dr. Voodoo and bled him. The Pierce helped there with a couple of hits as well. Second one had 1 success in the initial roll after the X-Force reroll as well, which Dr. Voodoo blocked. So not a great roll there for the Wolverine. Well, it was over to Blade next, and we've had our first massive spike of the game. He did his basic katana attack 5 dice Mystic on Cable, who did not have enough to boost his defense, although his base Mystic defense is pretty decent at 4. But the attack roll, all successes, 2 crits thrown in there as well, I believe. Cable's defense roll was appalling. All said and done, he took 6 damage, which would have been enough to daze him from the get-go, but he already had 2 damage on him as well. So he is dazed. He dropped the cube fragment he was holding, which Blade has paid 1 to pick up. And for his other action, he's doing nothing, because there's nothing else he wants to do from where he is. There's also a problem in that he dazed Cable. There's no one around him who's bled anymore, so he can't heal off of them when he ends his activation. So it's a little rough because he's on 3 damage. So he's staying where he is, surrounded by friends, just in case Victor down here decides to go after him. Well, as much as Sabretooth would like to get in there and start causing some problems, in order to secure a couple of points, he is just going to stay down there at the Dormammu portal, because he's also holding onto a cube fragment. So he's doing his job. He's generating 2 victory points as it stands currently, and his healing factor is kicking in, so he's back to full health as well. But yeah, that's it for the X-Force in Battle Round 2, which means now the Punisher and Iron Fist get to activate. So of those 2, Iron Fist was up first. He did 2 chi strikes on the Wolverine. The first one whiffed entirely, did nothing. The second one, however, spiked pretty hard, and Colossus did not use his power to bodyguard. Would have done 5 damage, which would have been enough to daze him, so it forced out spending 3 on exceptional healing to reduce that damage down to just a single point to keep Wolverine in it. That does also currently keep it as a draw on that portal as well. And to end off the turn, the Punisher decided to just be a real nuisance and double medium move for his turn, right down here to say hello to Victor and contest the portal, more importantly, just to be a right menace. So here is how things stand at the end of Battle Round 2, with a little bit of shifting in the points, especially thanks to Cable managing to get himself dazed. The X-Force have 2 cube fragments, so Sabretooth and Colossus generate 1 victory point each with that, but they also take 1 damage and gain 1 power. And they hold none of the portals, because this one is a draw. The one at the top end of the table is also a draw, and the middle is not held by them, which put them up from 4 to 6 victory points. The Midnight Suns, they now hold 3 of the cube fragments. Blade's got 1, Moon Knight's got 1, Dr. Voodoo's got 1. They also all took 1 damage and gained 1 power. Moon Knight is also 1 away from getting dazed now, so even if no one hits him, he's going to daze at the end of the next turn. And they hold the middle portal, because Blade is the only conscious person there at the end of the turn for an extra victory point as well. So they gained 4 there, meaning as we go into Battle Round 3, the Midnight Suns have taken the lead barely at 7 playing 6, but the X-Force are holding on to first activation again. So with that, let's jump into Battle Round 3. So the battle round started with Cable once again, and he got his revenge. He fired a plasma rifle shot into Blade's face, did 2 damage, and has dazed the vampire. He paid 1 to pick up the cube fragment that had been stolen from him. Then he shot downfield at Moon Knight, found his mark this time, although only for 1 damage. His attack roll was fantastic for his attack on Moon Knight incidentally, but the defense roll was equally as amazing, which is why only 1 damage got through, but 1 was enough. So Moon Knight also dazed. He dropped his cube fragment within 2 of him, and Cable was able to go get that by spending a total of 3 power, 2 to phase shift by 2, or 1, whatever it's called, but he moves within range 2, and that put him within range 1 to pick up the other cube fragment. So he's now holding on to 2 of them, and although he's on his wounded side, he is holding that portal because there's no one else there. Also worth pointing out, just to make sure it's known, the Punisher now has 2 of those vengeance tokens for 2 of his teammates being dazed. Well, with 2 people dazed straight away, this might end up being one of the quickest turn 3s ever on the channel, especially because of what happened next. The Iron Fist activated. He did a basic Chi Strike on Wolverine. Wait, yeah, it was Wolverine. It spiked pretty well. Colossus did not try and help him. He was saving power for himself. He was being a little selfish, although he is holding a cube fragment, so it makes sense. Wolverine couldn't use exceptional healing this time. He took 4 damage and has been dazed. Then Iron Fist went all in. He went with the Iron Fist onto Colossus, who spent 2 on Bushimoy to give himself 2 extra defense dice, and it paid off. The roll was okay for the attack. The defense roll was better. He took 2 damage, reduced down to 1. Now, because he didn't have an activated token though, the Iron Fist forces an activation token upon him. And so Wolverine's dazed, so he's not getting a turn. Colossus is now not getting a turn, so that just leaves Victor, although he could pass, I guess. So Sabretooth activated, and he's doing work for the X-Force. He used No Mercy for 3, so he adds up to 3 dice for his next physical attack based on the damage the target already has on him, and Punisher already had 4 on him. Ended up doing 3 thanks to the Pierce. Would have bled him as well, but that doesn't matter. He only had 2 health remaining, so the Punisher is dazed. Didn't do anything else with his other action because he doesn't want to move. He's doing the work for the X-Force. He's sitting there generating victory points. And now that the Punisher's gone, this really is going to be the quickest mid-game turn ever, because it's over to Dr. Voodoo as the final activation. So Dr. Voodoo shook his bleed first of all, because he didn't want to die from that at the end of his activation. Then he spent 3 on Staff of Legba again, used it on Colossus. It's a really good skill if you roll wilds, and he rolled 2 wilds again, so that was Power Burn, stealing 2 power from Colossus and hitting him for 2 damage just alone. Doesn't matter that he's got the lower damage taken because it's separate, presumably. And then the attack itself did 4, reduced to 3, so Colossus is dazed. However, he did not pay to pick up the cube fragment Colossus was holding, because that would mean he'd dazed in the power phase of turn 4. Doesn't want that to happen, wants someone to be forced to try and take him out. So the cube fragment has just been dropped on the floor within 2 of Colossus right there. Colossus is dazed. Basically half the table is dazed. Quickest turn 3 ever. Let's go to the scores. So the end of battle round 3, the X-Force have turned it back around into their favour. They have 3 of the 5 cube fragments, 2 of which are on Cable, so he's taken 2 damage. Sabretooth's got the other one, so that's 3 victory points. Cable is holding the Central Dormammu portal himself for 1, and Sabretooth is holding the one down here because he took out the Punisher. So they gained 5 victory points that turn, taking them up to 11, putting them ahead. The Midnight Suns only hold 1 cube fragment because Dr. Voodoo didn't want to get dazed in the power phase, so they scored 1 for that. They hold the Fire Portal though, because Wolverine and Colossus were both dazed, so that's 2 gained for them, taking them to 9. So 11 plays 9, it's still very close. As we go into battle round 4, X-Force keeping first priority, and I think they're starting to get advantage though, because this is just breaking out into a brawl, and in the long term I think they're a little bit tougher, but let's see. So yet again it was Cable getting a turn started, and he unleashed his range 5 plasma rifle into Dr. Voodoo, who took 1 damage and was dazed. His cube fragment was placed on top of, more or less, the one that was already there, and then for his other action Cable just moved short in that direction, putting him within range 2 of Colossus for protection, and he paid 2 and picked up both the cube fragments sitting there, so he's holding 4 of the 5 cube fragments. He's dead at the end of or if there will be another turn, which I don't think there will be now, he would die at the power phase, but with him gaining 4, that puts the X-Force 1 away from winning. So as long as they get 1 other point from somewhere, and keep in mind Sabretooth is both healthy and holding the 5th cube fragment, Cable has to go down. But technically so does Colossus. Colossus can bodyguard for him twice. So this is going to be a very tricky turn for the Midnight Suns. They have to take Cable out or it's over. Blade activated and made use of his affiliation bonus, bumping the Knight to be moved within 1 for 1, and ended up right where you can see him, which put him just within range 3 barely of Cable. And then he spent a total of 8 power across 2 Knight of the Dampiers, both of which could have allowed him to move medium. He didn't want to. He wanted to hold the portal just in case of any shenanigans. But Colossus was within range of both. He blew through his 4 power to bodyguard for both, and as a result took the hits for Cable, and he only took 1 from each. Both rolls were not great. 7 dice Mystic against 3 Mystic defense. Colossus should have taken more damage, not that that's relevant. The relevant part is that his bodyguards have been used up at the very least. So Iron Fist might be able to do something to Cable with Moon Knight's help. We'll see. So we're actually over at this end of the table as Sabretooth activated next and started by chucking himself into Frank with an out of focus Whipping X program. It's not just a Wolverine card, it can be used on Sabretooth as well. Spends 3, gets chucked small, doesn't suffer damage for the collision, but whoever he collides with does, and he's size 3. So Frank took 2 damage from that, and then Sabretooth did 2 strikes or claw slashes, whatever his basic attack is called. First one whiffed, did nothing. Second one though did 3 damage, and that is enough that Frank is out of there as the first actual casualty, so he can't even take advantage of that with his vengeance. So he is gone. Sabretooth is unharassed over there now. He's the only one on the X-Force side still on his healthy side too, which is going to be a problem. Moon Knight activated next and he almost got it done. Almost. His multiple personalities was a hit, which adds 2 dice to the next attack he did. So for his first action he moved up to put Cable in throwing crescent range, turning it into a 6 dice attack. A couple of crits in there, all successes. Cable boosted his shield, or his defense rather, with his telekinetic shield. Still managed to take 4 damage all said and done, leaving him on 1 hit remaining. Almost, but Iron Fist could seal the deal, who knows. But unfortunately Wolverine or Colossus still get to activate. So of those 2, Colossus activated, and he didn't really expect to take Iron Fist out. He just wanted to generate a little power. So he did 2 basic strikes, the first one did nothing. The second one did 2 though, taking Iron Fist to, that's his first damage actually. So that's nowhere near being dazed, but more importantly does generate 2 power for Colossus, so he can do 1 bodyguard. But Iron Fist from where he is can do 2 attacks. Now Wolverine still gets to go after Iron Fist, but really it all comes down to his turn, because if he doesn't take out Cable, well, I was going to say they lose. Actually, yeah, they still. I was going to say, but Wolverine could just then pick up some of the cube fragments and they'd still win. But I think he's not allowed to interact with objectives on his wounded side. So yeah, I think it all comes down to Iron Fist. Well, that is it. It is over. Iron Fist activated. He did a flying kick, which 4 dice physical. Cable just took to the face because the next attack he was going to do was a 5 dice. So plain statistics. The flying kick had 2 damage coming in, which was blocked. And as a result, it was already over at that point, but he did a chi strike anyway. Worth pointing out though, Colossus did pay his 2 to bodyguard that, which is what the plan was. It spiked super hard. Oh, I just realised his damage reduction would have taken that 5 down to a 4. So I think he would have lived. Yeah, he actually would have lived with 1 health, but it did well. It did 5 reduced to 4 damage. But with Cable surviving that, it doesn't matter what Wolverine does with his turn, it is over. So we're going to go to scoring. So here is the state of things at the end of the game. It was looking so good. It was tit for tat. One team was leading, then the other team was leading. But that play by Cable. Cable is MVP by a country mile. So, let's do the Midnight Suns first, because that's the quick part. They don't have any of the cube fragments. They do, however, hold the central Dormammu portal. So they gained 1 victory point, putting them at 10. The X-Force, though. Sabretooth's holding this portal. Because of Iron Fist going after Cable, the other portal is held by them as well. And all 5 cube fragments, 4 of which are on Cable, are in their possession. The 5 cube fragments alone take them to the 16 required to win. And the 2 portals take them to 18. So they win hands down, very comfortably, largely thanks to this gentleman here, who is very good at carrying the X-Force. Because the X-Force in general I don't think have a particularly good roster, but that's just my opinion, don't take offence. But he carried hard. There was a little bit of unlucky dice on both sides this time. As turn 3 though, what was that, 5 characters days, 3 for one side, 2 for the other. Quickest turn 3 in history. That was a little unheard of. But the match in general was good fun, and didn't feel as one-sided as last time, because that was just miserable last time, let's be honest. So I hope you enjoyed watching this one, even if you were rooting for the Midnight Suns. Thank you very much for doing so. I appreciate you watching. Please do share support. See you next time. That's all for now.